I know this title might be a little bit overdramatic because nothing BTS put out is really overlooked, but hear me out. When you ask a BTS fan what their favorite album is, you'll probably hear answers like Wings, Map of the Soul 7, Love Yourself Tear, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 2, or maybe even Dark and Wild. Their latest studio album, B, is almost never the answer, at least not in my immediate group of ARMY friends. In the conversation, if BTS have become too westernized, people often say they released 3 English songs back to back, they're losing their Korean identity, and thereby completely ignore the Korean album and the Japanese single that came in between. And more recently, B won Album of the Year at the Mamas, which, expectedly, a lot of K-pop fans did not like. In many ways, B was not very spectacular. Except for Dynamite, which already came out months before the album, none of the songs include a choreography. There is no cultural impact comparable to those of concept albums like the Love Yourself series. There is no iconic music video like Blood, Sweat and Tears, no breathtaking live stages. The album is rather short with only 8 tracks, one of them being Dynamite, which as I said wasn't a new release, and another one is Skit. Yoongi wasn't there during the promotion of the album due to his surgery, and overall the pandemic took away a lot of memorable moments from this era. B is not flashy, it's not as eye-catching as other albums, it's not loud or exciting. So then the question is, what is B? B is a product of its time. It wasn't planned to release a standalone album with no overarching concept after the release of Map of the Soul 7. In an interview BTS did at the Zach Sang show, Namjoon talked about how B isn't as tightly planned as their other big album series, but it is rather a snapshot of what they're feeling and thinking right now. And of course, these feelings and thoughts are closely linked to the pandemic we are all living through. B wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the pandemic, and simultaneously it's an album about and for the pandemic. All 7 of the members have talked about how they wanted to share their emotions in order to comfort ARMY and bring hope to the world in these weird times. I have gathered some quotes about the intention that went into this album. If you're interested in them, you can hit pause, but these are too many to read out loud. B is also the album with the most participation of all 7 members yet. The songs are self-produced and written, all 7 of them have writing and production credits, they were in charge of the themes and messages, and they also took on roles outside of the musical aspects. Jimin was the project manager, who organized all of the members' ideas and mediated between them and the company. Taehyung was the visual director, being in charge of photo shoots for example, and Jungkook directed the music video for Life Goes On. So let's actually talk about what the 7 of them have created and get into the reasons I think B deserves more appreciation. A quick disclaimer, even though I did a lot of research, this analysis of B is still highly limited to my perspective. The following interpretation is not a definitive answer to what B and the single songs mean, it is rather an invitation to start a conversation about this album. Please share your views and interpretations with me and other fans down in the comments. All of my sources are linked below, and I also made a playlist called Research Package B, including interviews with the members, promotional videos of B, etc., so you can comfortably form your own opinions. Also, I don't speak Korean and I have to rely on translations to understand the lyrics. I try my best to consult multiple sources who provide translations in order to understand them more deeply, but there will ultimately be nuances that I don't pick up on. Again, all of my sources are linked below. Life Goes On, the title track, the only song besides Dynamite to have a music video, is the message BTS wanted most to be heard. There is no secrecy about what the song means, it's referring to the pandemic that hit us all and took away the life we knew in a heartbeat. As Jungkook sings, "One day the world stopped without any warning," and "Streets erased of footprints." Namjoon said the title of Life Goes On felt like a transition from their previous title track On, which I think is a really sweet connection. The willingness to keep on fighting, which is found in On, is carried over to Life Goes On. Even though here, instead of this powerful outcry, the song is much more reflective and softer. Nevertheless, both of these songs are about giving strength to the listener. Before the song takes on a hopeful message though, in his verse RM talks about the realization that he is merely human. The speaker tries to outrun a cloud but gets ultimately soaking wet. The pandemic turned all of our lives upside down, and there are things at work none of us can control, not even the leader of the world's biggest band. These lines could be put in relation to the cancellation of their Map of the Soul 7 tour, which was already scheduled for the year, and how BTS weren't able to do the things they wanted to achieve and couldn't see ARMY. RM is as powerless as the rest of us, not able to outrun the cloud of rain. In the pre-chorus, V and Jungkook sing, "There is no end in sight, is there a way out? My feet refuse to move," to which the answer is to hold their hand and run away towards that better future. In the chorus, the listener is reassured that life will indeed go on, with the metaphor that the day on which normal life will be possible again will return like an echo in the forest. The speaker says that a new day is flying by like an arrow in the blue sky, which I find a very fitting image because time really went by extremely fast during lockdowns, where one day bled into the next. But this sentence could also be understood in a comforting light, meaning that the days are flying by like arrows so fast that normal life will arrive very soon. And then the speaker says, "On my pillow, on my table, life goes on. Even if the world is turned upside down right now, we still sleep on our pillows, we still eat at our tables. We continue to live these normal, mundane routines which we cling to until the day comes on which we don't need to find comfort in them anymore." Suga then tells us that even though the world has changed, between him and us nothing has. And one of my favorite lyrics is then sung by J-Hope, who says, "With the annyeong, which is the word for both hello and bye, that we start and finish the day, let us thread tomorrow with today." I like how saying annyeong implies that there is another person we greet. It implies community, regardless if we're together in one space or not. And again, it's about time not stopping. The days go on and on, every annyeong in the night is followed with one in the morning. Although everything is paused, don't hide in the dark because the light will shine again. Another day will start eventually. What I found was that life goes on becomes comforting not only because these 7 men promise us that life goes on and that things will get better again, but because they acknowledge that things are hard right now. This honesty validates the emotions one might feel amidst the pandemic, and it's comforting because we know that we are not alone in this. The same sentiment is shown in the music video as well. It revolves around themes of relatability and comfort. As I mentioned before, it was directed by Jungkook, and he said himself he wanted to grant a realistic look into the life of the members. An example of this is Jimin brushing his teeth. Some of the scenes were also filmed in their shared apartment. They are wearing pajamas instead of exciting outfits. They're playing video games, eating pizza, hanging out in the backyard. They're driving in a car, dreaming of the time they will be able to perform again. I love this theme of approachability. And I like how the song resembled the title of the album very well. It portrays a state of being rather than doing stuff. To simply be is enough for now. For me, a central theme of Life Goes On is taking away a lot of the pressure which we might put on ourselves during the pandemic. Too often we don't accept if circumstances prevent us from achieving certain things, thinking it is all our fault. We need to be kinder to ourselves, and life goes on even if subliminally urges you to do so. It's patting the listener's back, saying, right now, simply focus on the small things, the everyday tasks, in order to not go insane. Everything else can wait. The comforting messages of the song are also supported by the production. The beat is very low-key, the melody is soothing, and what I also love about the song are the vocals of every member. They are one of the best in this album in my opinion, and very comforting as well. I love Jimin's high notes, which are soft and light as a feather, Tae's soulful low register, Namjoon's honey-like rap, the beautiful ad-libs and harmonies for which Jungkook really shines as usual, and of course Jin, Yoongi and Hobi are doing an amazing job as well. We already established the setting of this album with the first track, The Pandemic, and now we're moving into a smaller space, somebody's room, which becomes their world as they aren't able to leave. Fly to My Room is one of 2 subunit songs on the album and is performed by V, Jimin, Suga and J-Hope. Hobi also worked on the beat and he stated he wanted to create something groovy. It definitely is that. At times, however, the beat is rather empty and a bit monotonous, which also fits the theme. While we're stuck in our rooms during the pandemic that is going on, there is not much to fill our days with or to make our lives exciting. What stands out to me more than the instrumentals or the vibe of the song are indeed the lyrics. I remember how in awe I was when I first read them because they encapsulate perfectly to me what their life during the pandemic has felt like. Every day the frustration drives me crazy, feel like it's still day one, someone please rewind that clock, this year's been stolen from me. I'm still in bed, I feel nauseous. It's killing me slowly. The delivery food is 3 stars. Try filling yourself with positivity, I'm full. those lines feel a little too real. The relationship the speaker or the speakers of the song have with the room they're in is really interesting. It is somewhat of a love-hate relationship. The speakers don't want to be there, yet it's a space they're comfortable in, and since they don't have a choice to leave anyway, they can turn it into their world. They also try to find beauty in the ordinary in an attempt to make the most of the situation. At least that's how I interpret V's verse. And Jimin reminds us that sometimes broken is beautiful. Hobie talks about being alone in the room for so long that the toys even begin to feel like people. Side note, but I love Hobie's "hi" in the background, which is how the toys greet him. For the longest time I didn't notice that. And Yoongi says at one point, "This room is too small to fill my dreams with," and later, "Even if this room sometimes becomes a trash can of emotions, it takes me into its arms and welcomes me in." Because here he can unload all of his emotions. Being trapped in a room confronts the speakers with their own internal room, so to speak. They're confronted with themselves because they have nowhere else to go, so their gaze turns inward. They are filled with memories of how the world was like before, and their emotions pour out. This approach would make the chorus make sense to me because, honestly, I found it very hard to interpret, but in the context of the verses, I now understand it in the way that the speakers want to fly away, but because they physically can't, they do it mentally. Like Hobie says, he does travel only he can enjoy. Flight in My Room pretty perfectly strikes a chord between expressing all the frustration that has built up while staying in your room, being confronted with the emotions that come out into the open, and the tiring attempt to find beauty in the space you're in, because there is no other option really. Blue and Grey was originally created by V for his own mixtape, but the other members liked it so much that it had to be part of B. Although it is an OT7 song and each of the members give it the personal touch, it has definitely written Taehyung all over it. It reminds me of songs like Scenery, Winter Bear, or Sweet Night. He really excels at these emotional pop ballads, often accompanied by a guitar, which I always like. Blue and Grey is not an exception. Blue and Grey is definitely the saddest song of the album for me, both musically and lyrically. If you read the lyrics while listening to the song, it just rips your heart out. I can't imagine how it must feel for native speakers who understand every nuance instantly. Other songs on this album I think can be read as multiple speakers talking, Life Goes On and Disease for example, but for this one I would argue that it expresses the perspective of a single person, and this speaker is at the lowest point. We start the song with the speaker stating that it's the end of a tiring day, and it ends with him falling asleep at dawn. The lines in between are somewhat a stream of consciousness, all the things that are rushing through his mind while he's trying to fall asleep. But it's not just a monologue. At multiple points there is a you that is addressed, his thoughts are meant to be heard by someone, and the whole song really is a cry for help, but I don't think these words are being heard. The speaker wants nothing more than for someone to save him, yet no one heard him. All these words were just floating in the air in front of him. His cries for help were in vain. The line, "I've reached out my hand countless of times," implies he has asked for help before, but no one saved him. And now there is this barrier between the speaker and everyone else. He feels like he's the only one who's suffering. I think that is the core of this song, the feeling of not being seen or heard and being separated from those around you. The speaker's loneliness is also felt in the many rhetorical or just questions he's throwing into the void, of course without finding an answer. Right from the first line where Tae sings, "Where's my angel?" But the most heartbreaking question for me is, I just want to be happier, am I being too greedy? Another thing that stands out is the play with colors, senses, and metaphors, which all help to illustrate the complex emotions the speaker is experiencing. The color blue is symbolic of the depressing feelings the speaker suffers from and of his inner turmoil. I find Yoongi's phrasing of a blue question mark in his mind especially poignant. The use of the color gray, especially in Namjoon's verse, is more related to the outer world. The speaker expresses his comfort when the outer world reflects his inner state. Words like color make me feel cringy. I feel comfortable with the vast gray area. When it rains, it's my world. These lines could even be seen as a reference to Namjoon's solo album Mono and especially the song Forever Rain. Hobie also uses the color gray when he's speaking of a gray rhino, which approaches him while he's standing there without focus, not feeling like himself. The gray rhino is a term used in finance when referring to a massively impactful but oftentimes ignored threat or risk. Rhinos are extremely dangerous animals, yet they're underestimated by some people. For this song, I interpret the rhino as a metaphor for depression. What I also associate with the rhino is its weight, which could crush you. This feeling of being weighed down by something heavy is found multiple times during the song. Right before, for example, Hobie says, "This piece of metal does feel heavy." There are plenty of things the piece of metal could stand for, like a crown, a medal, or the many awards BTS have won. On the account of heaviness, V sings how even the ground feels heavier, and overall there's just that feeling of being suffocated, which is provoked by sentences like, "The powerful shadow that swallows me, I hope I don't get eaten away." Next to the sense of heaviness, there's also a play with coldness. "Please warm me, I'm cold." And the imagery of rain and fog I already mentioned also paints a picture of coldness. The texture of this song really is blue and gray, and this whole song is filled with vivid imagery and outer senses that express the deepest and most complex emotions and makes them tangible, like the desperation to be seen and loved or the suffocating feeling that something will swallow you. Ironically, this song does the exact thing the speaker is not capable of. It brings these emotions out into the open and makes people hear them, and by finding a way to put the emotions of depression and loneliness into a song, it can make other people feel heard or seen and comforted by knowing they are not alone in this. For the Weavers magazine interview, Tae was asked what he wanted to do for the listeners with this song, and he said, "Rather than just some stranger telling them to cheer up, I think it's better to say something like, 'You seem depressed lately,' or 'Seems like these days it's tough for you to perk up.' Blue and gray is the same. You're depressed lately? Me too. We're in the same boat. Wanna talk about how you're feeling? You wanna feel better, right? I know, but sometimes it feels like you're being washed away by a whirlpool of stress. I want the listeners to hear me saying that to them." Just for context, skits are tracks or intros or outros to songs that consist of spoken words. They are predominantly found on hip-hop albums and often serve a comedic effect or the overall concept of the album. Sometimes they are also accompanied with a beat. BTS have incorporated skits into their album since debut. The skits in their school trilogy were grounded in a school setting, where they are having classes and a school bell is ringing, for example. The skit in B is the first one they did since 2017 on Love Yourself Her, which was a recording of Namjoon's speech at the Billboard Music Awards after they won the Top Social Artist Award. This one was recorded on the day they learned that Dynamite hit the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The members goof around together, overflowing with happiness over this important milestone. Their authentic joy over their success is the turning point for this album after experiencing the lowest point in Blue and Gray, and especially the theme of having reached that milestone with ARMY bleeds into the next song as well. Telepathy was produced by Suga, and he said he wanted to tell people that if we waited for just one moment, which is the Korean title of the song, we'll be able to meet each other. Writing that was healing for himself, he said. And this song is pretty straightforward in its message. It's still referring to the pandemic situation we are in, and it talks about how BTS are still connected with armies all over the world, even though we can't be together, by sharing this telepathic connection, so to speak. Jimin said in his B comeback interview he did for the Weavers magazine, "You, the interviewer, asked about telepathy, but I think we really do have a telepathic connection with our fans. It's not crystal clear or anything, but I think if we're sincere, then they can feel it somehow. I think that's why our fans support us and are always by our side." I think he's right. This connection he's talking about is found in the words the 7 of them speak in interviews and how we listen. The words they write on Weavers or Twitter and in the way they interact with each other and us, and of course, most importantly, it's found in the way they express themselves in their music. BTS have always been sincere and authentic in the way they present themselves to the world or to ARMY, and this album is no exception. This actually reminds me of something Namjoon said in a video log he did in September of 2020, where he seemed deeply contemplative over his intentions in making music, whether music really does transcend languages and if lyrics even matter to people. I think the trigger could have been Dynamite's massive success as the first English single and a song they didn't create themselves. While talking about the success Dynamite has had and doing interviews for it, he quotes himself, "Music really transcends every barrier like language. Even while I was saying that, I questioned myself if I indeed believe this." He then said, "I think we're doing all that we can to make sure it, the album, can find its way to just one more person. The new album contains a lot of sincerity. Being able to accept that sincerity as being genuine, having that relationship, that team and society, that's what I want to believe in. So that this sincerity, accepted as sincere, can spread like the seeds of dandelions and flower everywhere. That's our mindset in making this album." And at the end he said,
진심으로 얘기한다면 그래 난 사람들이 아직도 진심으로 들어준다고 생각하고 믿고 싶다. 의심하고 싶지 않다.
But back to Telepathy. Simply put, it's a love song for ARMY. Yoongi really seems determined to make us feel special. He's checking if we're alright, and explicitly says that this song is for us. Thanks to all this time I write such a song as this. This is a song for you. And it's about the telepathic connection we share that is present even though we are not together. Even if you're not by my side, even if I'm not by your side, we know that we're together. The chorus says, "In the midst of my repetitive days, I'm happiest when I see you. Of my different daily routines, you're the most special to me." And there is a really sweet passage about the companionship of BTS and ARMY. Without going too fast or going too slow, let's try matching our speeds. This is quite a long and enjoyable roller coaster. Namjoon uses one of his Namjoon-esque wordplays by asking, "Can I be your Beverly Hills like you did the same to me?" Beverly Hills is, if I'm correct, the way Beverly Hills would be translated into Hangul and then romanized again, back into English. Doyu Bangtan, which provides translations for all BTS songs, wrote, "This is not Beverly Hills spelled wrong, although it plays with that idea. Pibil ondok literally means a hill to rub yourself against and describes something or someone you can confidently rely on, especially when you're pursuing a particular goal." In a group hangout recorded for Festa 2019, RM in fact mentions the need for a Pibil ondok, and a little later, Suga makes the joke that he needs a Bibil's Hills.
사람이 이제 비빌 언덕이 있어야 되거든요. 그래서 이제 나름대로 비빌 언덕들을 막 많이 만들어 놓은 것 같아요. 그러다 보니까 좀 마음이 편하더라고요. 그래서 밖에서 뭐라 해도 뭐
비빌 힐스가 필요한 거네.
그렇죠.
비빌 힐스.
비빌 언덕.
So with the lyrics, "Can I be a Beverly Hills like you did the same to me?" Namjoon is saying that he has leaned on ARMY and he would like us to lean on him as well. Which reminds me of another thing he once said.
So it's never intended, but it feels like I'm using you guys to love myself. So I want to say one thing. Please use me. Please use BTS to love yourself. Because you guys taught me how to love myself every day.
And there's another beautiful meaning hidden in the production of the song, which is the whale sound that can be heard in the intro. As you know, the whale has a special meaning since the song Whalion 52 of The Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 2. Whalion 52 is about feeling isolated and not understood by using the metaphor of a real whale who has been recorded multiple times and whose calls are of a frequency of 52 Hz, which are too high to be heard by other whales. Because of that, it was also called the world's loneliest whale. In the song, it stands as a metaphor for especially young people who feel like they are alone or outcasts in that big, scary world in which no one understands them. Here in Telepathy, however, just like in the animated music video for We Are Bulletproof the Eternal, which was released earlier in 2020, as well as the Tiny Tan animation short film Dream On, the whale seems to be alone no longer. We are not alone as long as we got each other. Even a pandemic can't change that. And with that in mind, there is a part in this song that can also be interpreted as a sequel to Whalion 52. Let's go to the blue sea, that blue sea we used to romp around together. The sea could be the ocean the whale was feeling lonely in. It could even be seen as an affirmation that the whale was never alone in the first place, even if he felt like that. And a few lines after that, Jungkook sings, "Let's enjoy together and remember the small island in the middle of the blue sea." In Valiant 52, the whale called himself an isolated island as he was asking himself if he could shine bright like those around him.
윤경이 섬 속에 갇힌 것 같다고 이야기했지만 그래도 절대 포기하시지는 않았으면 좋겠습니다. 여기 한국이라는 나라 그리고 서울이라는 도시에 나를 이해해주는 누군가가 있다는 점을 꼭 기억해 주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
This song was mainly created by J-Hope, and just like Blue and Grey had Taehyung's stamp on it, Disease undoubtedly feels like Hobie. His playfulness and energy are felt in the charismatic, energetic beat, in the fun ad-libs, as well as the chorus. Hobie said, "But while the theme of Disease isn't very light, when it fuses with the beat, it feels as if the song is trying to get over itself and stay positive. So I threw some scratching into the chorus and put in some yup yup yup." Thematically, this song is a lot more serious than many other songs Hobie has worked on. He said, "The nice thing about music is that I can say what's on my mind, even feelings of sadness or depression, in beautiful ways. I don't usually express those feelings, but this time I wanted to try." Disease deals with being unable to rest and with the relationship the speakers have with their work. But on a broader sense, it's about mental health. To have the 7 of them speak about their mental issues would be amazing enough, but it's even more impactful if you consider that in Korean society, to this day, mental illness is still extremely stigmatized. Hobie even said in an interview how he wanted to break diseases with this song, like a glass bottle. Byung in Korean actually means both, disease and bottle. In the first verse, Hobie raps about not being able to find rest during the free time he now has on his hand, during this endless rest. He describes his mental state with the word anxiety, which he tries to relieve by sipping some coffee. Another translation called it unease. But whether he's talking about an actual anxiety disorder or just a general feeling of unrest, this line is a nice callback to the English title of this track. Of course, the most obvious meaning simply is disease, as in illness, but the hyphen between dis and ease creates a second meaning. Dis is a prefix used to negate the meaning of a word, so dis-ease means to not feel at ease, and rather to feel unrest. Hobie also calls insecurity or feeling unsettled, which fits the English title, a disease he's having. Before that, he expresses his feelings with a paradox. Happiness suddenly comes to me uncomfortably. He should be happy about the free time, but he doesn't know what to do with it. He is used to work until his body breaks. He usually feels the pressure of having to deliver results every day. Namjoon then expands on what Hobie said in the second verse. We have to talk about the little line, "I'm ill," because it has 4 different meanings, which all make sense in the context of the song. First of all, there's the literal meaning in English, having a disease, which he explains in his case is that he is work itself. But in Korean, ill means work, so in saying "I'm ill," he already stated that he is an embodiment of work. Perhaps that is because he works too much, or just because always working comes to him naturally. Then there is another Korean meaning of the word ill, which is one. Him saying he is number 1 could be interpreted in multiple ways too, in the sense that he is the number 1, the best at working hard, for example, or could also be seen as a reference to the many things RM and BTS have been number 1 in. And lastly, in English, being ill is also slang for being cool or dope, which can be connected with the third meaning I talked about. Always working and achieving the number 1 spots surely made BTS dope. These simple 2 syllables are portraying the speaker's conflict of, on one side, being proud of his achievements, being number 1, being sick or dope, while also recognizing that the relationship he has with work is being unhealthy. In the next lines he says, "The friend called rest, oh I never liked him. How much do you have to earn to be happy?" Which definitely calls out the unhealthy tendencies of always wanting to achieve more. And then Namjoon uses the double meaning of the word byung in Korean, saying, "This glass bottle hits your head," or "This glass-like disease hits your head." I like this comparison. Mental struggles surely can feel like being knocked out by a glass bottle that's hitting your head. Sudden and painful, completely taking over your state of being. In the third verse, Yoongi continues to speak on mental illnesses more openly. He says, "Everyone has a lot of diseases. What confuses me is if or that human nature is inherently evil." Here I found different translations. There are more than 400 kinds of mental diseases. There aren't many that don't fit into any of these categories. Is the world sick or am I sick? Or do we just interpret things differently? Or is that all to it? He is asking a really interesting question that could open a long and philosophical debate about human nature and the world. And I really want to talk more about the thoughts the song provokes, but this video wasn't meant as a philosophical debate. That will make this video 3 times longer than it is already. So what I'm probably going to do is have a separate video solely dedicated to the meaning of songs like Disease or Blue and Grey. But please feel free to leave your thoughts on the songs in the comments. Coming back to the song and Yoongi's verse, I was reminded of a question Yoongi was asked about this exact paragraph in his interview for The Weavers magazine. He said, "When I was young, I had embraced the belief that it must be my fault, but as I got older, I realized that this is not always true. Most of what I thought was my fault was in fact not my fault. On the other hand, there are things that I did well and times I had been lucky." I really want him to get more into that topic of guilt. The verse kind of reflects that older mindset of his, searching for someone guilty, for someone to put blame on, someone who's in the wrong. The song's chorus eventually provides a more helpful and soothing message. "Every day I comfort myself." And for the next line I found different translations again. "They're all the same people, ain't so special," or "we're all just same humans," or "we're all just people." One could interpret the line as in, every single person is struggling with their mental health in one form or another, so you struggling with that is not as bad or uncontrollable as you might think it is. Or that the illness you're dealing with doesn't define you as a person. You're still just the same human. And the following line says, "Let's all keep calm and treat the diseases." There is no need for fear or panic. Let's all just calmly try to help those who struggle. The chorus actually has a really nice development. Before we get to that conclusion I just talked about, in the pre-chorus the speaker is full of uncertainty about what his disease is. He's still growing up, not yet comfortable with who he is. At the end they are referencing a children's rhyme that they also referenced, even if slightly altered, in their songs If I Ruled the World and My Time. The original rhyme goes 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to make ready, and 4 to go, and was or is used by children to count down to a race. The speaker has to get ready just like he's so fine, even if he's not feeling ready. And side note, it's interesting that they used laugh instead of money here. He then tells himself this reassuring message that I just mentioned. Let's all keep calm and treat the diseases, with which he tries to comfort himself. It's okay if he's not feeling ready and still limping through life. And the post-chorus evolves into the simple, empowering message. And now I have to talk about the bridge of this song, which, and I say this as a Swiftie, might be one of the best bridges ever created. And Jimin just casually improvised the melody for it while he was in the studio with P-Dog. This bridge can be best described with the word dynamic. It's full of tension, fun, and adrenaline. And it finds the perfect balance between building on the song and still sounding fresh. I love the rhythm, I love how the progression of notes and the overall structure isn't that complex, but how the same repeated notes feel like the speaker's struggle yet persistence to never stop fighting. And the is just so good. Lyrically, it is the climax of the song as well. Even though the speaker is sick and tired, even though there are nights we have to walk through, the speaker says he's gonna walk right through the fire and night that's laying ahead of him, trusting his old self again. He knows no night lasts forever. He has become stronger, fireworks spark, and This song only gets better the longer it plays on. The music, especially in the bridge, just encourages you to keep fighting in the most beautiful and strong way. And for me, this song stands as a powerful reminder that talking about mental health is actually the key to getting better, individually and as a society. The empowering and upbeat end of Disease bleeds well into the next song of the album, Stay, which is the other subunit song performed by Jin, RM, and Jungkook. Stay was supposed to be on Jungkook's mixtape, he was also one of the producers, and just like Blue and Grey, the members wanted it on the album, so it ended up where it is now. This is another song dedicated to ARMY. It's a sweet declaration of love while also recognizing that we can't be together right now. Jin starts the song asking if it was just a dream. In an interview, as he was asked about writing those lyrics, he said, "It was around 2 to 3 months ago that I wrote the lyrics for this song, when it seemed like COVID wasn't getting any better. I want to put on another concert and, like I said, it feels like my memories of ARMY were all a dream. They always used to be there with us and then they disappeared like a memory. Was all that a dream? Will we ever meet again?" Those kinds of thoughts. The beginning is full of uncertainty. The speaker's realization that he is alone in the room is eventually juxtaposed with the last lines of the song where Jungkook sings, "Once I close my eyes, we'll always be together." It's the memories while closing his eyes that give the speaker the strength to go on. We're always in this moment, together, wherever. The entire song has a bittersweet note to it. Even though the speaker is certain that the you he is addressing will always stay with him, he still seems desperate. "Even I don't know what I feel inside. Wouldn't it be possible for me to see you? Like a madman, I keep saying, wherever you are, I know you'll always stay. I tell you with dry lips, stay." The song picks up in the chorus, which feels a lot more hopeful than the verses and is full of certainty that the you will stay. It is also notable that the dry lips the speaker is talking with turn into firm lips during the next pre-chorus. In the verse that comes in between, Namjoon raps about how it is the internet that connects us. "I'm thinking of you right now, does it matter wherever you are? We connect to 7G. While the lyrics are sentimental and bittersweet, the instrumental of this song is...
Oh, party, party, yeah.
The pre-chorus builds tension more and more, like a rubber band. The whole song is elastic and pulsating, and then it explodes into a fun dance track in the chorus. I always thought I wasn't a fan of the EDM genre, and it still definitely isn't my favorite, but BTS always succeed in making me like their EDM songs. When I listened to Stay in bed with my eyes closed, as I was trying to focus on the production and details I had missed before, I realized how much I love the sound of this song. To listen to it right before falling asleep is probably not the way BTS intended the song to be consumed, but I really liked it. I like the dynamic of Namjoon's soft, low verses and Jungkook's and Jin's part. I like how Jin and Jungkook are throwing the repeated stay in turns at each other in the chorus. And I like how the song captures Jungkook's on-stage joy and spirit. You can really see him dancing on stage and feel his youthfulness and energy. Jungkook also said, "We imagined we were performing for the fans while we made it, jumping up and down with them." This perfectly translated into the production of the song and the performances of the members. It feels like one of the dance tracks they put on albums to perform at concerts, even though they knew that wasn't possible for B, but they still gave us this concert experience for us at home. I saw fireworks while listening to it. I think that's the best way to describe this song, and it's a perfect segue to the last song of the album. As BTS's first full English song, Dynamite caused a lot of controversy within the K-pop community, and it sparked the debate if BTS have become too westernized, or if they were seeking too much Western validation. So let's talk about it. BTS released Dynamite on the 21st of August in 2020. They have talked about how the song crossed their paths and they had to make it their own, but this wasn't planned out long before. As the only song on this album, it is not written or produced by the members at all, or even producers of their own company, and I think that was another reason some people didn't like it. However, the reason BTS released this song was simply to spread happiness. It wasn't to be thought-provoking or honest. An article of the Esquire, who did an interview with BTS in 2020, wrote, Though the new rules of COVID-19 mean they can't come here and promote B, its first single might not have happened in the first place but for the pandemic. Dynamite wouldn't be here if there was no COVID-19, says RM. For this song, we wanted to go easy and simple and positive. Not some like deep vibes or shadows. We just wanted to go easy. Jin agrees. We were trying to convey the message of healing and comfort to our fans. And I like the next part. He pauses. World domination wasn't actually our plan when we were releasing Dynamite. World domination just happens sometimes. You'll get it. The lyrics are no masterpiece, I won't lie, but they are functional for what the song is. Everything's shiny. The song is full of keywords like stars, fire, disco, diamond. They are setting the night in skylight. They are dancing till the break of dawn, dancing with a little funk and soul. The pop culture references also give the song another carefree, easygoing energy. And even though the lyrics were not written by the members themselves, the song was still sincere in its message and in the joy the 7 of them conveyed. This joy is authentically captured in both the song itself, the members' performances and voices, as well as the music video. The video for Dynamite matches the sugar-high serotonin boost of the song perfectly. The pastels, the fireworks that go off, the styling, the improvised dancing scenes, the joy of the members translates so well. It feels extremely authentic and is therefore just contagious. Its intention is to spread happiness, which was exactly what the world needed at that time. And for this song to be enjoyed by as many people as possible, it makes sense that they chose an English song because that way more people could sing along to it and enjoy it. And they were successful with what they set out to do. Now I would like to talk about the structure of the album and how it all ties together. The underlying theme of B is obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. The setting and mood are established with the first song on the album, Life Goes On, which also encapsulates the most important and titular message. With Fly to My Room, we move into a more personal and vulnerable space, literally, someone's private room. Blue and Grey moves in even closer, and it is the continuation of the vulnerability presented and the lowest point of the album. The speaker feels alone and distant from the ones around him, and he begs for help. And then the skit makes the tone of the album shift. BTS, the speaker, we, everyone are reminded of the things ARMY and BTS have achieved together. There is joy and togetherness in the celebration of their victory. And then we move on to more hopeful songs. Telepathy is a testament to the connection of us. The strength this connection and support gives helps to let the speakers talk about their mental struggles they are dealing with, and they are shouting out their battle cry to not give up. Stay is the energetic celebration of the relationship BTS and ARMY have. We are confident that we will always be there for each other. And the glorious finale, the liberation of the pandemic-ridden sorrows, is Dynamite. The last 3 songs have built up to this joyous affirmation of life. The first 3 songs were painting a picture of how the pandemic wears us down, what problems arise, and while disease does that too, the second half of the album is the answer how to overcome these problems. By being there for each other, by having these figurative, telepathic connections, by speaking out about mental illness and celebrating our love for each other, which eventually results in the pure joy that is Dynamite. The themes of loneliness and togetherness are woven beautifully through the entire album. And unlike a lot of BTS's discography, the themes and messages aren't that complex or hidden. The lyrics and meanings of these songs are rather straightforward, which makes it easier for as many people as possible to take them in and to find comfort in them. The honesty and vulnerability of these songs make them so comforting. And B is as much a love letter to ARMY as it is the free-flowing thoughts of the members which arise during the pandemic. The whole album carries their personal stamp through their voices, lyrics, production, and even their work outside of the musical aspects. And we really have everything in this album. The comfort of Life Goes On, the heart-shattering emotions of Blue and Grey, the fun and retro style of Telepathy, the dynamic joy of Stay and Dynamite. And it makes absolute sense in the way this album progresses. Of course, there is more to an album release than the songs alone, and that is why I also want to talk about the promotional aspects of B. They really accentuate the essence of this album. Overall, the themes of the visual and promotional aspects are groundedness and relatability. These are found in the lyrics of B and are then being translated into other aspects of the album. The simple approach can first of all be seen in the minimalist cover. It's simply white with the title of the album written in grey or black and some lyrics of Life Goes On carved into it. they released only 2 editions of this album, the Deluxe and the Essential Edition. There are no multiple versions, no different concepts or photo shoots in each of them. The poster in the Deluxe Edition contains their handwritten lyrics, which creates a sense of intimacy and realness. And some of these photos in the album are blurry or otherwise made to feel casual. With this entire album, they create the feeling of simplicity. And I also want to point out that instead of one photo card of a specific member, you get all 7 of them when you purchase the album and a single one on top of that. I just like how it's about all 7 of them. The aesthetics for Life Goes On, and honestly B as a whole, I would call pajamas and nature, with a snippet of retro. There were multiple music videos for Life Goes On. One was, for example, called In the Forest, after the lyric in the song, and it was just them in the garden they filmed in. There they also filmed a 7-second interview. Whenever I see them in this location, I really want to bond with nature, do a barbecue, or just enjoy the sun. This garden is not extraordinary by any means, but its beauty stems from its ordinariness. The clothing the members wore during the music video and stages were mainly pajamas and things people would wear around the house, which makes sense for the theme of being trapped indoors during the pandemic. No one had colorful hair during this era or was otherwise very experimentally styled, and the makeup was minimal as well. The stages and sets we saw for TV performances were in tune with the theme of staying home as well. Their MTV performance can't really be counted for their promotional era of B, but they performed Telepathy and Blue and Grey there for the first time ever. I really like the set design for these 2 songs. It's again a mixture of calm color palettes, approachability, nature, and retro. To come back to the theme of rooms, this was also apparent in the series of photo cards and photo shoots they did for the album, where each of them designed their own room. It was basically the aesthetic version of Fly to My Room, in which they gave their rooms a personalized touch. And what I also really like is how they found even more ways during this pandemic and the B era to highlight their connection to ARMY. For one, BTS have live streamed multiple conversations they had about the album, which they published months before B came out, in order to let ARMYs be part of the album making process. And there were other live streams marked with the hashtags Stay Connected and Carry On YouTube as well, including Yoongi, who painted, Hobi, who let us have a sneak peek of his dancing routine and the song production process, Namjoon, who was philosophizing, or Jungkook and Taehyung, who just chatted with ARMY in their own respective style. They also did the Life Goes On video call version music videos, playing into that theme of being connected via internet, which we also saw in the lyrics of Stay, for example. In early 2021, they published B-logs, short videos with snippets of their daily lives, which was another way to connect with us. There was another music video of Life Goes On that was titled ARMY Version, which highlights ARMY's importance for this record and the theme of connectivity. And of course, there were other live streams and the usual Bangtan Bombs or BTS episodes that were published from that period of time, which connect BTS and ARMY as well. For the first time in their career, they also had an interview series in which they interviewed each other about the making of this album. These conversations also allowed us to peek into their creative processes and thoughts. For B, BTS weren't just orchestrated as these approachable, normal guys next door. They really were, even if they're for many of us at the other side of the earth. Listeners can identify with their struggles, experiences, and that allows us to find comfort in their messages. So I think that every aspect of the promotional campaign for B was very tasteful and fit perfectly for what this album tried to be. It's unagitated, natural, simple, approachable. But I also think that this style actually helped to let a lot of people forget about B that quickly. People, and especially K-pop stans, generally eat up the loud and exciting concepts. But with B, there was no idol choreography, no fake love music video, no universe storylines to dissect, no memorable live stages due to the pandemic, no iconic looks of the members, no shock value. But I feel like people who criticize B seem to forget that this album never aimed for these things. It didn't want to be grandiose or shocking. It was not meant to be about any concept or about the stages or choreography because, except for Dynamite, it doesn't have any. It's not about the outfits or music videos or how well you can bop along to it, and it's not made for a tour. Instead, it's about the honest feelings of all 7 BTS members, which they share with the world in order to comfort us in these trying times. B's approachability, relatability, and simplicity, both in the messages as well as the promotion, is honestly a breath of fresh air in K-pop, where artists often strive to be the flashiest, loudest, most shocking in the room. These more low-key songs will always be less successful than flashy songs, as one can see with how Dynamite still overshadowed the release of Life Goes On, for example. But that doesn't take away from their worth at all. It's okay that B is not as much talked about as other albums that came before. I don't expect the masses to read up on Namjoon's wordplay or to appreciate Hobi's production skills. I just want more people to understand that B wasn't trying to top the latest comeback or to be more shocking and fresher than anything before. It was simply trying to be honest and real and relatable, nothing more. If it was shocking and loud and heavily promoted, it would have missed its purpose. And there is another thing I think made a lot of people not enjoy B as much. A good chunk of this album, namely Life Goes On, Telepathy, and Stay, are largely dedicated to ARMY, to the audience BTS want to cheer up. And so is Dynamite if you see it from this point of view, that it was made to bring happiness to the world. The emphasis here, I would say, is on the recipient, ARMY, instead of the artist, BTS. Perhaps that is, probably subconsciously, the reason why a lot of K-pop stans, and maybe even ARMYs themselves, didn't vibe with BTS's latest music that much. We are used to darker themes, angrier tones, and more complex thoughts that often relate to their position as artists and idols. I love them for switching things up, focusing on bringing comfort by being relatable and approachable, and affirming their love for ARMY, but I also understand if especially casual listeners don't particularly love that direction. How much you enjoy B probably relates to your expectations. If you consume this album as what it was intended to be, a love letter to ARMY, a ray of hope during the pandemic, and a chill and straightforward collection of songs crafted by the boys themselves, your enjoyment will be higher than if you only wanted a dark and wild part 2. All of that being said, I want to make clear that not liking these songs out of preference or simply preferring darker concepts is absolutely fine. Neither am I thinking that B is BTS's best album, but I also wouldn't have made this video if I didn't want more people to talk about B. I want more people to appreciate B as a body of work because I think, generally speaking, authenticity, sincerity, honesty, and vulnerability are not celebrated enough. And so are lyrics in general. It's a shame that many people don't seem to care for lyrics at all. I won't go on a rant about people who say, I like my K-pop dumb and whatnot. If you just want to have a good time and not think too much while listening to music, that's fine. But on the other hand, I can't deny that I want more people to think more deeply, to challenge themselves, to find meanings in the things they consume, and to talk about that. I guess that's why I'm making these videos. And even if that's something some people don't want to hear, this is what has made BTS always stand out. The focus on lyrics and meaning and their integrity in making art. B now also stands out in its relevancy regarding recent events. Its relatability is not something that is easily found, and it makes the album work. One could argue that's what makes the album expire someday once COVID is quote-unquote over, if it ever really will be, but I think the honesty that's put into this body of work elevates it to a timeless artwork. And I mentioned it before, but the way the members make themselves vulnerable by sharing their thoughts and shortcomings really cannot be stressed enough. It's not something many artists are brave enough to do, but that is the exact thing that has made the bond BTS and ARMYs have so strong as it is today. We are connected to them. We know how they feel. They let us into their world and we share the same stories and emotions. I guess that's something we have that's worth to be jealous of. So let's keep looking for the hidden worth of the content we consume and let us prove that we not only care about dramatic aesthetics and danceability, but also about lyrics and integrity. Let's prove that we value sincerity. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching till now. I really appreciate you for sticking with me for so long. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, and I am already planning to do breakdowns of every BTS album, or at least every album series, so if that's something you're interested in seeing, please consider to subscribe to my channel. Also, please leave a comment with your thoughts on B. Is it perhaps your favorite BTS album, or is there any song you really dislike? What are your interpretations of these songs? Please let me know. As I said, I would love to start a conversation about BTS's art with these videos. But again, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.